Rising population, rapid urban migration, and uncoordinated policy direction of the government at various levels are some of the critical factors deepening the housing gap in Nigeria today. As the urban population expands, almost half of the country's population now live in urban areas. Building additional units would require more than 6 trillion naira investment yearly. If this, we can expect very little to come from government funding. Because of the scale of this deficit, innovative investment solutions are all important right now. Thanks for joining us on TV and Business Daily. I am Chiwendu Ostisiago, and today we shall be discussing on bridging Nigerians' housing deficit. But before we go on with that, let's look at the business stories making headlines. The equity market in Monday sustained rally for the second trading section to open the month of August on the positive note. The market performance indices NSE All-Share Index appreciated by 0.29% as the market closed positive with 19 gainers and 16 losers. Consequently, the All-Share Index grew by 72.39 basic points or 0.29% from 24,693.73 index points from the previous trading section to 24,766.12, while the market capitalization of equities appreciated by 38 billion naira to close at 12.92 trillion naira from 12.88 trillion naira. Further analysis of the day's trading showed that Nemad Pharmaceutical PLC led the gainers chart with 10% to close at 1 naira 65 kobo per share, while Flour Mills Nigerian PLC followed with 9.97% to close at 1.85 naira per share, and UPL PLC with a gain of 9.90% to close at 1 naira 11 kobo per share. Several major oil and gas projects in Nigeria may suffer further delays as international oil companies operating in the country saw their financial take a dive in the second quarter of this year. The slump in oil prices caused by the coronavirus pandemic has forced many companies, including IOCs, to slash their capital budgets and suspend some projects. The global oil benchmark Brent crude plunged to as low as $15.98 per barrel in April, its lowest since June 1999. It traded around $44 per barrel on Monday. The company warned that the outlook for oil demand continues to be uncertain, saying it had cut its exploration drilling plans for this year from 77 wells to just 22. The Central Bank of Nigeria disbursed 539.8 million naira loans to farmers between January and March 2020. It disclosed this in its third quarter economic report entitled Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme obtained on Monday. Part of the report reads a total of 539.8 million loans was guaranteed to 3,161 farmers under the Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme in the first quarter of 2020. Analysis by states show that 30 states and the Federal Capital Territory benefited from the scheme in the review quarter, with the highest and lowest sum of 54.8 million naira, 10.2%, and 1.8 million naira, 0.3% guaranteed to Ogun and Nasarawa states, respectively. The bank stated that agricultural activities in the first quarter of 2020 were preparation of land for early wet season planting, harvesting of tree crops, and irrigation-fed vegetables. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation on Monday announced the demise of its former group managing director, Dr. Joseph Dauha. Dauha is the second ex-GMD of the national oil firm to have passed on in the last 3 months, as the immediate past GMD of the corporation, Makati Barrow, died towards the end of this year. NNPC current GMD Melikiari said in a tweet on Monday that Dauha died after a brief illness. The Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division, NNPC, Kenny Obatero, said Dawa was the 16th GMD of NNPC. The corporation described Dawa's death as a great loss not to only NNPC but also to Nigeria as a whole. Dawa was the GMD of NNPC between August 2014 and August 2015. And that's the business update on Television Nigerian. I am Chiwendu Ostisiago. And let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
My name is Chiwendu Osisiago, presenter at Television Nigerian Business Daily. In a globalizing world, ours is to keep you engaged, informed, and educated on contemporary happenings in the business world. We therefore command a special audience of business-minded viewers who are eager to know more about business. I mean, your business. Why don't you take advantage of our special affordable offer to let the world know about your concepts, your goods, and of course, your services? You can call us on 080-3071-6959 or 070-3234-9054. You can also visit us at Television Nigerian in Guzapi, Abuja, and follow us on all the social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Your business is our concern.
Thanks for staying with us, and if you're just joining us, it's still TV and Business Daily. Like I said earlier, we shall be discussing on bridging Nigerians' housing deficit. My guest is here in the studio, is an architect, Mr. Tasu Edesira. You're welcome to TV and Business Daily today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And how's been your day?
Very well.
Okay, my first question for you is that who owns the bulk of responsibility in the sincere efforts to resolve Nigerians' huge housing deficit? Is it the government or the private investors?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Housing is everybody's responsibility.
Okay.
Even though you ask who owns the bulk responsibility. The bulk responsibility, if you look in terms of delivery, it should be the government because everything centers around it. But we can't just narrow it to the government because there are several perspectives to housing. There is the social perspective to housing that says the government should provide housing for all its citizens. Okay. So that is another view. And from the social perspective, you see that government has total responsibility for housing delivery to its citizens. But then there is another perspective. There's the economic perspective. And the economic perspective says, if you have money to provide your houses, go ahead and develop for yourself. And so on that end, the government is a little eliminated. You have your resources, you have the ability, go ahead and afford the kind of house you want to get. But then there is another perspective that tries to marry the two, and that is the welfarist perspective. The welfarist perspective says the government should provide houses for those that can't afford. But for those that can afford their houses, they should go to the market and get their houses. And so in all this, everybody has a responsibility. I'm sure if you have your money to get your house, if you're not living in one of yours now, you will gladly not wait for the government, even if they are ready to provide for you. But in all, everybody has a responsibility, but the government has bulk of the responsibility because they formulate the policies and every other thing that even involves the individuals developing their houses.
So are you saying that the government provided houses for people, and how do they know who has a house and who doesn't have?
Well, we have statistics, and the government should be able to have data for its citizens. Okay. One, the government, they say, is the largest employer of labor. And I'm sure there are deliberate policies from the government to provide houses for the workforce that is in the government employment, the public sector. Mm-hmm. And so most of these workers contribute to the housing scheme. And so the government should know who and who is lacking houses, who has gotten, if they have a working data. But beside that, even those employed in the private sector are captured in other statistics. So the government should have an idea of the number of persons. Of course, we have a statistics now that says over 17 million housing deficit in Nigeria. Yeah. How did they come about that? So I'm sure with that kind of statistics, they should be able to know who needs a house and where they need it.
All right, thank you so much. So how has this COVID-19 affected the sector of building and the architectural sector as a whole?
Well, the COVID pandemic has really affected virtually every sector. But like I said earlier, if you have your money, you want to build. And so when others were really, had a big setback as a result of the COVID, Others were making a big fortune.
Yeah.
And for those that made that, definitely, they were building. So a whole lot of buildings were still going on, even though on a large scale, where you expect large scale constructions, government involvement in housing, on those areas now, there was a shortfall. But on the private individual scales, well, little housing work has been going on.
But do you think, as an architect, do you think people are still building now?
Yeah, they are building, but on a very low scale, on a very low scale. It's not like it used to be.
Okay. So some view property ownership in Abuja and other big cities as rock science. So what's your take on that?
Well,
do you see that as rock science?
Yeah, they have made it look like rocket science because the cost of affording land around, and then even cost of building. The cost of building material is relatively okay compared to other places, but the basic challenge is the cost of acquisition of lands, land and getting land titles. That is what makes building here looks like, and if not, every other thing is as obtained elsewhere. Sometimes you even find some materials are even cheaper here compared to other places. But another thing is the process. The measures here are very stringent as opposed to other places. The regulation here is tougher than in most places, so it makes it look as if it's difficult. You can't only get a land or build here even when you have a land. But it's not really rocket science if you plan yourself and then work towards it.
Okay, thank you so much. So what's the role of government in this sector, especially in this era of COVID-19, to help the sector to thrive?
Well, the role of government usually in everything is policy formulation. Once government is able to bring the right policies and put the right policies in place that will help the private sector to thrive, there's no way government can provide houses for the people without the help and support of the private sector. If you go to town now, you discover that there are so many estates. They are not government-owned estates. They are developed by private investors, and then they provide a platform where some of the government workers or any other person can afford a home through mortgage system. So the government should continue to develop policies and continue to put in place measures that will make it easy for the private sector to contribute towards the housing provision, especially in the area of bringing in funds. There's nobody who wants to build a house here now, especially if you want to develop on a large scale. You will require to get some offshore funds to help you facilitate that. So if the government can put in place measures that will make accessibility of those funds easy, or bringing those funds into the country very easy, I'm sure we'll have a lot of houses, and then they will truly be affordable. And there are still government agencies like the Family Home Funds, the Nigerian Mortgage Refinancing Company. There are all agencies of government that have been put in place to help bridge the housing deficit through providing affordable loans or accessibility to grants from government to bridging the housing sector, even for the private developer. So the government basically is policy formulation. Once they put in the right policies and then the implementation is swift, I can assure you that housing delivery will be on another level in the country.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Tesu Desire. Okay, what can you say to architects, especially those that have been affected by this COVID-19? What can you say to them that they can actually survive at this period?
Well, if it's not easy, it took everybody by storm, and a lot of people have been at home, actually, even architects. You don't have and even the clients that come now will tell you there's no money with this pandemic era, but well, you have to thrive. You must just become innovative. At least the greatest things that the pandemic has taught us is innovation. We have seen innovative ways of doing things that we thought were not possible before. People have gone into that, and then they're making a good lot of it. So we shouldn't just be restricted to sitting and waiting for clients to bring jobs. There are certain innovations around the construction industry that you can bring to bear that will help, especially in this period, and it will help you, make the maximum of the process. Even in our practice, if you attend most of the seminars, they tell you architects must learn how to diversify. You can't be restricted to sitting. Yeah, they tell you go into other. The construction is very versatile. You can go into block molding.
Oh.
Of course, as an architect, you can go into block molding, and then you do blocks that will meet up every standard that you have clients, even when they are not, your friends can buy from you. And as an architect, if you have 20 colleagues that are building now and you have a block industry, and all of them are patronizing you, know how much you make. You don't need to go to site again, or even as an engineer. So you could think around other areas around the construction industry that you could just venture into, rather than relying solely on doing designs or going to site.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Teso Adesua. Let's take a quick break. Then after the break, we'll continue with our discussion. Just stay with us.
Benignan Trading Group is a conglomerate of partnerships. Partnership with you. Partnership through investment for profit, investment for returns, cutting across various corporate business spheres. Benignan offers you credible 15% returns on all investment with us. Benignan Trading Group, your choice's investment management company, has become a reality with the marketplace administrators carefully selected as young bright minds who would spearhead this move into creating more prosperity and distributing them. This is what we mean by benignant. So come, be benignant with our increasing community of happy and enthusiastic investors. Why not call us at any of our offices closest to you or dial our number? You'll be glad you did. You deserve the benignant touch.
BTG is your friend. BTG is your partner. BTG is your handbag. Yes, we are that flexible to become your handbag. We are your servants too. In the sense that we are using our information we've gathered, the knowledge we've come into, the understanding and mastered to bring you profit. Yeah, BTG takes the risk for you. BTG is your conduit to become better. We also give you return on investment on a monthly basis. Formerly it was 6%, but now it's from 7% to 15% return on investment monthly, which is categorized by capital.
You can call us on 0907 685 9446 or 0909 22 97081 or visit us on www.benignantcg.com. We are your reliable conduit.
Thanks for assisting with us, and if you're just joining us, it's still TV and Business Daily, and we've been discussing on bridging Nigerians' housing deficits. Of course, my guest is here in the studio. He's been discussing with us as an architect, Mr. Teso Adesua. Okay, Mr. Teso, a lot of people are actually planning on building houses. So what are the procedures in building a house? A lot of people believe that you must have billions of naira in your account. Some believe that you must have millions. So what are the procedures in building a house?
Well, the procedure is simple and straight.
Okay.
If you have billions to start building, fine. But you don't necessarily need millions to build. There are stages in construction. The first stage is to acquire a land. And then when you have a land, in regulated areas, you don't just have a land and start building. You know what is required for you to be built. It's required to be built on that land. So even if it's a private residence, there are approved kind of buildings in every area. So you try to find out those and then consult the relevant professionals. You come up with your design, and when you have your design, there are stages. You clear your land, you do the setting out, and then you have your building from the substructure level, you have the superstructure level. So at that level you can break out. The substructure level has to do with your setting out excavation, you build your foundation walls, do all the necessary casting of filling and casting of the concrete overside. And then after that, you're done with the substructure. Then you go to the superstructure where you build the building envelope and then do the roof and other this thing. Then you come to finishing. You put your windows, do your electrical piping, tiling, and all those. So these things are broken into segments. You can decide to take them at a time. If you have enough money to get a quantity surveyor, he could give you a bid. And the bid states what is required in all those stages of the work. So with that, you can easily plan. Okay, if I have this amount, I should be able to accomplish this phase. And so you can face your construction and say, within this time, if I make plan for this, get this, and then go to site, do that phase, come back and rest. mobilize other funds and do them in stages like that. So you don't necessarily need to keep millions or billions before you build. You just need to understand the processes, the stages that are involved, and then begin to take them stage by stage.
All right, thank you. So what are the roles of architects in building a house? Is it compulsory you use an architect?
Well, the design comes from the architect. So if you don't design, what are you building?
No.
Yeah, the architect brings the design. You have an idea of what you want to do.
Okay.
It is the architect's responsibility to develop that idea into something that can stand as a building. So with your imagination, you can, have a concept of the kind of house you want, but you can't translate that concept to a physical or tangible work. It is the architect's responsibility to help you translate that to what can be worked out on ground. So you really need an architect.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Tasso. So your final take?
Well, my final take is housing is everybody's collective responsibility. And like I just said now, you can plan how to get your own house. If you have the means to afford your house, even if you don't have millions, you can just plan. Meet the right persons and then you'll be guided accordingly. You will get very affordable houses. Mostly people are not informed. They just feel like when you get the services of a professional, it's going to cost you. But if you fear that cost, you end up spending more without getting real value. So always ensure to get a professional. He will guide you. And if you have, he will tell you the best ways you can, always develop your property without spending much or within your budget. And then the government must always make sure they have good policies that will help the private sector get involved in housing delivery.
All right, thank you. A lot of people believe that when you have a house in Abuja here, half of the problem is solved. Is that true?
Of course. The rent calendar is like 6 months, because when you pay your rent, before you sleep and wake up now, the landlord is on your door again asking. So when you have a house in Abuja here now, half of your problem is solved actually, because you're free from landlord wahala and all those.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sai. So at least I learned one thing from you, that owning your own house here in Abuja is actually very important. Not just Abuja, wherever you are. And you mustn't have millions of naira before you own a house. You can start from somewhere and probably get a very good architect that will help you guide in building your own house. Thank you so much for coming to TVN Business today. Just good to have you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And that's what you have for you today on TVN Business Day. I am Chiwande Osisiago. And don't forget that you can follow us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Do have a wonderful day. Bye for now.